Good morning and good afternoon to those people who are watching this video. I am Maria Dena Cloma, a Ed 1 student. I am here to give you a simple background or a simple discussion about the first article of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, which is the national territory. The national territory comprises the Philippine archipelago with all the islands and waters embraced therein, and all other territories over which the Philippines has sovereignty or jurisdiction, consisting of its terrestrial, fluvial, and aerial domains, including its territorial sea, the seabed, the subsoil, the insular shelves, and other submarine areas, the waters around, between, and connecting the islands of the archipelago, regardless of their breadth and dimensions, from part of the internal waters of the Philippines. So when we say national territory, it states the limitation of the territory of the Philippines, and it also describes the geographic structure of our country, which is an archipelagic country. An archipelagic doctrine emphasizes the unity of land and waters by defining an archipelago either as a group of islands surrounded by waters or a body of water studded by islands. An archipelago is a group of islands closely scattered in a body of water. Usually, this body of water is the ocean, but it can also be a lake or river. An archipelago is derived from the Greek word pelagos, meaning sea. A sea or a part of a sea containing many islands. In other words, it includes both sea and islands, which geographically may be considered as an independent whole. Or country is comprised of the sea and all its island, which is considered to be one single unit. What was the importance of national territory? National territory is important. It is because it would provide the country with claim to the land covered by the said provision. This provision would allow the citizens to know his or her country better by knowing its limitations, including its terrestrial, fluvial, and aerial domains. As one of the citizens of our country, we should at least know the boundaries of our territory. Territory is defined as the fixed portion of the surface of the earth on which the states settle and over which it has supreme authority. The components of territory of the state are the terrestrial, fluvial, and aerial domains. So why is it that territory is important in a certain society? So territory is significant in a certain society or state or in a country simply because territory is one of the elements of a particular state wherein its state or jurisdiction o ang ating nasasakupan, and also it state the limitation of our power or our sovereignty. Let's talk about the three components of the territory, and these are the terrestrial, fluvial, and aerial domains. So, when we say terrestrial domain, it refers to the landmass which may be integrated or dismembered or partly bound by water or consist of one whole island. It may also compose of several islands like the Philippines, which are also known as mid-ocean archipelagos as distinguished from the coastal archipelagos like Greece. Or in a simple way, terrestrial domain refers to the land, whether agricultural, forest, and national parks under sovereignty and jurisdiction of the Philippines. So when we say fluvial domains, it refers to the internal or national waters, external or territorial waters over which the Philippines exercises jurisdiction. And now, let's talk about the areas of fluvial domains. The first area of the fluvial domain is the internal waters. Internal waters covers all water and waterways on the landward side of the baseline. The coastal state is free to set laws, regulate use, and use any resource. Foreign vessels have no right of passage within internal waters. Second one is the territorial waters. Out to 12 nautical miles from the baseline, the coastal state is free to set laws, regulate use, and use any resource. Vessels were given the right of innocent passage through any territorial waters with strategic straits allowing the passage of military craft as transit passage. When we say innocent passage. It is the convention as passing through waters in an expeditious and continuous manner which is not prejudicial to the peace, good order of the security of the coastal state. Fishing, polluting, weapons practice, and spying are not innocent, and submarines and other underwater vehicles are required to navigate on the surface and to show their flag. The third one is the archipelagic waters. It is the convention set the definition of archipelagic states in Part 4, which also defines how the state can draw its territorial borders. A baseline is drawn between the outermost points of the outermost island, subject to these points being sufficiently close to one another. All waters inside the baseline will be archipelagic waters and included as part of the state's internal waters. And since it is a part of the state's internal waters, foreign vessels have no right of passage within internal waters but shall have the right of involuntary entrance, which involuntary entrance defined as the right of any foreign merchant vessel to enter the territorial waters of a state in case of emergency such as lack of provisions, unseaworthiness of the vessels, inclement weather, pursuit of pirates, or other force. The first one is the contiguous zone. Beyond the 12 nautical mile limit, there was a further 12 nautical miles or 24 nautical miles from the territorial sea baseline's limit. The contiguous zone in which a state could continue to enforce laws regarding activities such as smuggling or illegal immigration, infringement of its custom, fiscal, immigration of sanitary regulations, and punish infringement of above regulations committed in its territory. The fifth one is the exclusive economic zone or EEZs. It extends 200 nautical miles from the baseline. Within this area, the coastal nation has sole exploitation rights over all natural resources. The EEZ were introduced to halt the increasingly heated clashes over fishing rights. Although oil was also becoming important, by 1970, it was technically feasible to operate in waters 4,000 meters deep. Foreign nations have the freedom of navigation and overflight, subject to the regulation of the coastal states. Foreign states may also lay submarine pipes and cables. The sixth one is the continental shelf. The continental shelf is defined as the natural prolongation of the land territory to the continental margins, outer edge or 200 nautical miles from the coastal state's baseline, whichever is greater. Continental shelf may exceed 200 nautical miles until the natural prolongation ends, but it may never exceed 350 nautical miles or 100 nautical miles beyond 2,500 meter esubath, which is a line connecting the depth of 2,500 meters. Coastal states have the right to harvest mineral and non-living material in the subsoil of its continental shelf to the exclusion of others. The seventh and the last one of the areas of fluvial domain is the international waters, high seas or open seas. It refers to the portion of the ocean which is beyond the territorial jurisdiction of any country. Since antiquity to the Middle Ages, it has been an accepted principle thus the open sea is free to everybody and like air it is common to all mankind. So the last component of the territories is the aerial domain. Aerial domains refers to the airspace above the territorial lands and waters of the Philippines, but excluding the outer space. And now let's tackle about the areas of the aerial domain. The first one is the airspace. It is the constitutional provision on aerial domain is an affirmation of the generally accepted principle of the international law found in the International Convention of Civil Aviation, also known as the Chicago Convention, where it is established the principle that states have the complete and exclusive sovereignty over the airspace above the territory. And also, the first article of the 1987 Philippine Constitution state that we have six air freedom, and it is the first one, freedom to fly across the territory without landing. The second one is freedom to land for non-traffic purposes. The third one is the freedom to put down passengers, mail, and cargo on the territory of the state whose nationality aircraft possesses. The fourth one is freedom to take on passengers, mail, and cargo destined for the territory of any other contracting state. And the fifth one is the freedom to put down passengers, mail, and cargo from any such territory. And the last one is the privilege to bring passengers and cargo from one country to the airline's home country and then transit them to a third country and vice versa. The second one of the areas of the aerial domain is the outer space. Outer space is beyond the territorial sphere of state, thus an orbiting satellite owned by state which is directly above the territory of another state but outside the pull of the Earth's gravity does not offend the territorial integrity of the latter space.